Hi, everybody, and welcome to our very, very special episode. Presbytera, it's nice to have you here. We're color coordinated. We're in black and white here, all right? But I think this is a special show.
It is our 100th.
Our 100th episode. So when you and Demos and I and Marissa and Sam and all them started, you know, we thought, we'll do a couple of shows and then we'll move on to something else. And so here we are at 100. And in fact, if you remember from last week, one of our viewers, Scott, came by and presented us with this really, really nice plaque.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Commemorating our 100th show. We were hoping to have a couple of the of people show up at the show, but unfortunately work and travel to Greece, getting back late. But I think we got a couple of hellos there. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. We got we have one from Dan, and let's check it out.
Is it Dan or Sam or?
I have both.
Both? Oh,
yeah.
All right.
We'll kick off with Dan.
Oh, okay. But it might be John.
Or John.
John. Okay. Let's see.
Hello, everyone. John Pappas here. Welcome to the 100th episode of Q&A. Such a fun night ahead, and enjoy the show.
Yep, that was Dan. It's John.
It was John. Okay, all right. And then I think we got one more
from Sam.
100 episodes. Wow. Thank you to all those who tune in every week and ask the questions. Father, for answering those questions, and Presbytera and all the other co-hosts, and especially for Dimo for keeping the production running smoothly. And here's to another 100.
Time before she moves to New Mexico.
Yeah. We're hoping to have her on.
So, real quick, because it cut off there for a second. So, you mentioned Marissa.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you wanted to extend your prayers because she's defending her...
Not offending, defending.
No, defending.
Oh, I thought you said she's offending. Okay.
She's off offending.
She's off offending people, right?
She's very busy.
But she is defending her thesis for her doctoral whatever it is. I never got that far. So dissertation. For her dissertation. So we don't extend luck on this show. We only extend blessings, right?
That's right.
All right. Now. Also, we've got a couple of neat things that we're going to do today, but since it is the 100th show, we're going to make it Throwback Thursday, and we're going to Whiskey of the Week. But this one is a pretty special one, so, Presbytera, I'm going to have you talk about it.
Oh, you always surprise me. Well, this is from a distillery in Fintry, which is where, if people have seen the video of the Colebrook Castle, that's in the town of Fintry.
Your ancestral home.
My ancestral clan castle. And this is a fairly new distillery, right? Mm-hmm. And Uncharted Whiskey Company.
Whiskey.
And all of their whiskeys come from song titles. Mm-hmm. So this one is... that should be a trivia question. What song does this come from? This whiskey is I'll Take the Low Road.
So that'll be one of the questions then, right? Okay. Is you're not winning the bottle of whiskey? I'm sorry. So that is that don't.
Well, I think it's illegal. We can't.
We couldn't do that anyway. But this truly is one of the whiskeys from your ancestral home area. So they brought the Fintry Inn back, right? Because the castle now is owned privately, right? Mm. And so downtown they have the Fintry Inn, and it was going to close, but there was two couples there that bought it. And one of the couples runs the distillery and whiskey side of the house, and then the other part they're good friends, and then they also run the Fintry Inn. And Demos, I think when you were there visiting us, you saw it. What did you think of that?
I wanted to try the Killer Queen whiskey, but it was really neat. They had, like you said, they had all their whiskeys named after popular songs. I remember Strawberry Fields being another one, and all their food, because they also have, that's like the central hub of entertainment.
Yes,
for
downtown.
But all the food was slightly spicy, so I liked it, and it was very good, and the people who ran it were very generous. very generous in their samples as well. So I was happy about
that was.
we definitely had to sit and we had to have a meal. So anyway, so that's our whiskey of the week. All right, so we'll put that over here. Okay.
Right in front of me. I love it.
All right, we're tempting you with that. Now, you know that if you've been watching, that we've been putting out a number of shorts, on different places that we visited when we were in Scotland. And so what we wanted to do is kind of a special giveaway. There we go. We got a couple of giveaway prizes. So we've got 4 prizes. So number 1.
4?
5. 5 prizes. So the first one is a T-shirt with the famous
Highland Cow.
Thank you. With the famous,
or Highland Coo.
Highland Coo, with the famous Highland Coo. So that's prize number 1.
It's been genetically altered to have plaid horns.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's a. May I see? It is a. It is a size large.
Size large. Okay. We have, from your travels to Loch Ness, we have the Loch Ness Monster mug with. Who is that?
That's the screaming man.
Screaming man. Okay. After having seen, so we got a Loch Ness mug. All right. We have the one of the symbols of Scotland is clearly the thistle, and so what we have is a thistle tea towel.
Mm-hmm. Thistle, pretty but deadly.
Pretty but deadly. Again, what I love about Scotland is everything that you see here is made in Scotland. So nothing here is imported. All right.
Except we imported it here.
Well, we imported it here. That's true. And then, keeping that Highland Coo theme, we have. If I can get this open, we have this 4-piece coaster set of the Highland Coo. All right.
All these were picked out by you?
Well, Demas and I.
Oh.
So we both kind of shared together. All right.
The tea towel was not my idea.
And then no, but that was your idea because I texted you, right? And I said, "Hey, what do you think we should get?" And then, of course, Walker Shortbreads, the Highlander. We couldn't be without that. So we've got. So there's your prizes. Okay. Now, Demos. Terry, what do you think we should do? Should I ask them the questions and then they pick their prize, or do we just give the prize away? What do we do?
I think it'll be easier to associate the prize with the question.
Associate the prize with the question.
Yeah.
All right. So now you had to watch our shorts to be able to get the answers to this. So let's do the first one. And Presbytero, what should be the first prize here? What should we do as the first one?
Oh, I don't know. How about the coasters?
The coasters. All right. Coasters for the first prize. All right.
Put those up so they can. There we go.
Okay. All right. Now, in one of the shorts, I talked about Mary's well. Okay? 2-part question to answer. All right. What village am I in? And question number 2, which was the English king that had the monument erected? So again, what village was I in? It was on the Isle of Mull, I'll tell you that. And which English king had the monument erected? So that's for the coasters. All right.
All right.
But before we begin, we had a short slideshow of some of the the adventures in Scotland. So we'll give you guys a chance to a few minutes to be able to cheat and watch the shorts. Here's a slideshow of some of the highlights that you can expect in the upcoming Scotland, the full Tarn and Priest videos.
All right. So hopefully you enjoyed that. It was very relaxing for us. It was well, it always is. But this particular island, I know you saw more than just Mull, but Mull's a very, very beautiful island, and anytime that you are able to have the chance to go to Scotland, please take it up, and don't just go to the tourist traps, but enjoy it for really what it is. Okay, let's do a couple of questions.
All right. First up is Diane. It's not really a question. She has a request.
Okay.
She asked that that you pray for her late father's wife, Andrea. Pray for her to find her way, and also pray for her late father's sister, Linda.
Okay, wait a minute now. See? So the first name was?
Andrea.
Because this is what I take with me to the prostheses. Andrea.
And also Linda.
And both are living?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I got to make sure I don't put the cross next to them.
Yeah.
And this is just my little prayer list. Because, and this we'll do certainly Sunday, but I'll also offer them on Friday at the Paraklesis service.
There's one
left.
One left. Okay. All right. Next up, Nick Carvelis. Congratulations on your 100th episode. First question: how did the ancient fathers know of the partial judgment and afterlife? Do you want me to give you the second question, or you want to launch into that?
So the first part, one of the papers that I did that is up on the resources page under education is what it was, a paper on hell and paper on heaven. Demo, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You did both.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I called, but I called it something.
We made it very simple on the resources to find. It's
right. So look up that paper, and specifically the one on hell, because in there I discuss kind of the four views that the early church fathers had regarding the final judgment time. Everything from the literal, which is the very Protestant version of the lake of fire, all the way to the ultimate salvation of everybody. And then I discussed that there. So one, take a look at that. But also, there is...
You're getting faster with these ones.
So, well, I knew where this one was in particular. this particular book, Life After Death, kind of a history of exactly the question that you're talking about, in terms of how the Church Fathers saw life after death and where did some of those ideas come from. Certainly, some of them came from Revelation, but many of them did come from the four Gospels. There is one more book, but unfortunately I have it at home. I only have it in Greek, and it's by the Bishop of Nafpaktos, which I think is Philotheu, I believe Philotheu, and he has his book is very, very well done, and it's entitled also then, I believe, Life After Death. I'll bring that in next Thursday to show you all. But now I believe that book is also available in English, but it discusses the Holy Fathers and what the positions that they took. And like I said, they took four basic positions, and those were mainly taken from the four synoptic, the three synoptic Gospels, some from John, and then a bit from Revelation. Now the second part of that.
Well, real quick, we have a question about the book. Trench asks, isn't the image, I assume the front cover, not canon?
Yes. Okay. So this almost has the idea of the toll houses, which is the idea of you see that the people are ascending the ladder into heaven, and that they're being dragged down by the demons. And so this idea of the balance of your good deeds versus your bad deeds, and this is certainly not an Orthodox idea, but it is a prevalent idea that has been through history. But he is correct.
How does that differ from the ladder?
Okay, the St. John Climacus's ladder is more about ascending through the virtues, and then the vices, which is what can bring you down. So
I see.
He doesn't talk about an actual physical ladder, but a ladder of ascent through the virtues.
Oh, this has all the demons.
Pulling you down. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Is there a part two, you said?
Well, there's a second question.
Okay.
I have heard some priests comment that we should thank God for our sickness.
Well, I don't use that terminology. That is a monastic terminology, to thank God for everything that we receive. I think the more proper response for us who live in the world is not to blame God, but to understand, or to try to understand, why or what is God's will in receiving this particular illness, disease, sickness. Again, I'm going to use myself as the example. When I had to have my hip replacement, it happened in January, and I was telling the doctor, hey, I got Lent coming up, and I got to be walking, and I got a lot of things that I got to be doing. I've got a very busy life, and what I learned in Revelation, looking back on that event, is that recovery time was time that I needed to spiritually renew myself and to be outside of the world, so to speak, because I was getting caught up in just kind of the administrative part of the priesthood and forgetting kind of why I got into the priesthood. And so it gave me that time that I needed, because I couldn't go anywhere for 3 weeks. So it gave me that time to read, to reflect, and to spiritually renew myself. So the question is not to thank God for the disease, but maybe I would say to recognize why you are in this state, and then in Revelation, thank Him for at least giving you that time.
All right. Next up is Trench, who, by the way, says congratulations on the 100th Q&A show.
Thank you, Trench.
And Trench says, the church says one is responsible for their own salvation, so why should one bother wasting time helping others since we're not responsible for others? And is that like taking the plank out of the other's eye?
Well, I mean, Jesus sums up the Ten Commandments, and in fact, he sums up the second half of the Ten Commandments, and they are all contained within this, which is love one another as I have loved you. Okay, so he gives us the command to go and to love one another. And he also says this in another place: if your friend desires your cloak, then give him your shirt and your cloak. And if he desires now your shoes, then give him 2 pairs of shoes. So Jesus Christ is constantly, and mainly through what we would call the golden rule, is telling us that we need to be involved with our fellow man. So yes, we are responsible for our salvation, but no man is saved by himself.
We have an answer.
Oh,
for the
we
first
have an answer.
prize.
All right, let me look and make sure that okay.
All right, this is from Orthodox Potato, which
Oh, wow.
Orthodox potato.
which is an awesome name.
Okay.
His answers are number 1, Tobermory, and
Correct.
number 2, Edward the Seventh.
Well, I would have accepted King Edward, but Edward is the correct answer. So, congratulations. What did...
That's the coaster set.
The coaster. All right, so the coaster, we got to put that down now. So that goes to...
Orthodox Potato.
Orthodox potato. All right.
So what do we need Orthodox Potato to do?
Email me.
Yes, the email is in the description. But I'll put it in the chat as well. agocny@gmail, and we'll be in contact to get you the prize.
Great. All right, our next prize is a 4-piece coaster set. I'm just kidding. All right, so let's put this back here.
All right.
So that is...
All right. We have more wishes from Aaron 88205. Aaron says to 100 more episodes.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Okay, we have another question from Frank Pontoni. I'm probably getting that way wrong. Sorry, Frank, if I botched that. Frank wants to know, is Greek Orthodox Church liberal or conservative?
That is a great question. And we are neither. Okay? We are neither a liberal church because there are many things that in a liberal secular society we do not accept. We do not accept abortion. We do not accept gay marriage. We do not accept the receipt of Holy Communion by non-Orthodox. In that sense, we are not liberal. We are more conservative. But we are very liberal in the sense that we are not a fundamentalist church, meaning that all people are welcome to join us. Okay, we do enjoy ourselves. I mean, we have Whiskey of the Month. I mean, we have great Greek festivals. Our culture is indelibly linked to our religion. So in that sense, there is not a separation, as you might see in America, between, our religion and our daily lives. Those two meld together. So we're very liberal in the sense that we can allow our secular lives to be guided by our Orthodox theology. Equally so, we are very liberal in the sense that we don't make blanket statements. This is our position on X. Basically, we have 5 things that we say are dogmatic. All of them are Trinitarian related. But the rest of them, in terms of social issues, the answer is, as you well know,
it depends.
It depends. Everything is then personal. So in that sense, we don't consider ourselves a liberal church, but at the same time, we don't consider ourselves a conservative church. But depending upon the lens that you are using, you would see us in one way or the other. So if you are a proponent of abortion or you are a proponent of gay marriage, then we would be seen as a conservative church. If you are a proponent that anyone who is homosexual is going to hell, then we are seen as a very liberal church because we don't hold that opinion. All right. So again, the lens that you use, you can paint us in an unfair way.
Well, just to expand on that question just for a second, does the Greek, and this is more so just to make sure we cover all the bases. Does the Greek Orthodox Church take any political stances one way or the other?
The Greek Orthodox Church does not. Priests and bishops do. Okay, people are people. I mean, but no, the Greek Orthodox Church does not take a political stand. So they don't endorse one candidate over the other. All right. If we are called to make a speech, we don't say, well, I'm not making this. I'm not giving the opening prayer because this is the Republican National Convention, or I'm not giving the speech because it's the Democratic Convention. So from that standpoint, the Greek Orthodox Church is apolitical. Is that right? Apolitical? Apolitical. Right.
All right. Okay. John Johnson asks, where did the Hebrew people get the gold for the golden calf? They were slaves, and slaves don't have gold.
Well, I think just a simple watching of the Ten Commandments. Basically, they took all of they did take many of the valuables and the treasures from Egypt with them. So some of that gold went with them.
Reparations.
Yeah, I guess you could call it reparations. Now, is that biblically based? I mean, that's where I would believe that they got them. Now, is it say in the Bible that they then were allowed to take the booty? And I mean that in a good way. Yeah. Okay, all right. Just check it. But throughout the Old Testament, many places you read where God says, and when you plunder your enemy, or when you, and I shouldn't say plunder, that's not the right word. When God sends them that they are to then conquer their enemies, then he gives them permission to take their valuables also with them. So it's not out of the question that they wouldn't have taken that with them.
Maybe we should move on to the next prize.
Okay, next prize is?
All right. How about, what did we do, coasters? How about a mug?
All right.
Oh, yes.
All right, so we got the, I'll put it back there. Okay, so you can see it, right? All right. So now we're doing the mug. All right. So in the actually it's the third short called Secrets of the Celtic Cross. Okay, so I know that the first question would be, what island was the monastery on? But that was Iona, so that's way too easy. We're not going to do that. But what I want to know is, question A, who established the monastery on Iona? Question number 1, okay? And then question 2, or B, is, I was standing in front of a Celtic cross, and I told you to look at the center, and I said, notice that it represents one of our most famous icons, and the name of that icon is what? So, question number 1, who established the monastery on Iona? And question number 2, what is the most famous icon, or a famous icon that is represented by what was depicted in the center of the Celtic cross in the video Secrets of the Celtic Cross?
And we also ask if you've already won a prize for the evening.
Yes.
Just stick with one prize.
Right.
And can the name of that icon be given in Greek or English, or do you want both?
No, just simple.
Okay, Greek or English. I'll take Greek or English. Yeah.
All right.
Let's keep it simple, because I have to read it.
Oh. You can do it, we know. Jack Sage Phoenix says, good evening, everyone, and I cannot read. Is that a Romanian? Maybe you understand?
Dio, Jesuo, Kajla, Sankada, Spirito, Estu, Con, V, Cujo. There we go.
I don't think that's right.
Probably not.
Well, so God.
Move it.
What have you done to us, Jack?
Okay. So so God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. I think that is be with you in peace. So may our God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit be with you in peace. I'm going to go with, that's what I'm thinking it means.
And what language is that?
That looks like Romanian to me.
Do you win a prize if that's right?
Yeah, what is my prize if I win?
Well, real quick, Jack had something to say, specifically to an earlier question. He says that Exodus is very clear that the Egyptians gave the Hebrews silver and gold as they left.
Oh, okay. So it does say it in there. I wasn't sure. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that.
All right. Bertie asks, what is the reason for communion on the spoon if that isn't the way that Jesus did it?
That is a great question. Okay. So in the original liturgy, which is the St. James liturgy, which we celebrate, which I like to celebrate every 26th of October, which is the feast day of the brother of our Lord, St. James. In the St. James liturgy, communion is distributed as it is still in the Catholic Church, where the laity receives from both species, meaning that I give you the body, which is the bread, and then you drink from the cup, which is the blood. Okay? Now, in the St. Basil liturgy, all right, and then forward into the St. John Chrysostom liturgy, there was still some that were doing it like that, but around, and I'm trying to remember whether it was the 1200s or somewhere around that, there was a transition now to the spoon. One of the reasons for this is that the communion wafer in the Catholic Church is a single piece. Okay, so the way that you would receive it is they place the silver platter underneath your chin. You would open up your mouth, and he would place it on your tongue, and then you would ingest the entire thing. No fuss, no muss. Okay, if you take a look at our bread is crumbly. Okay, so if I take that and I place it into your hand, okay, and then you eat that, there's going to be crumbs left over. What the people were doing with that was they were doing this. And now we have the body all over the floor. Okay, so one of the ways to solve that was originally, and we actually have a video on this too, was with tweezers. So they would take the holy tweezers, okay, and they would then take the element or the body, and then they would place it into your mouth, and then that evolved into then the spoon. So I was putting it into your mouth, and then you were drinking from the cup, and then what happened is we melded both together, where I placed it on the spoon, and then it became one simple motion for the priest to offer both the wine and the body and the blood then together. Okay. So also now in the Orthodox Church, this does not allow separation of species. So in the Catholic Church, you can commune from the body, but you do not have to commune from the cup. In the Orthodox Church, we don't have that principle. Then what Jesus said was eat and drink. And so we combine then both together.
So we have some follow-ups and the answer to the question. So real quick, that phrase was not Romanian. It was, and I thought about it while
it wasn't Romanian.
It was Esperanto.
Oh wow! Well, how close was I?
Very close. The actual translation is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit be with you all.
Be with you all. Okay, all right. I thought peace was in there somewhere.
Oh, very, very close. And then Trench has a follow-up on the question earlier about liberal versus conservative. He says, I think Father is misunderstanding conservative views, since many I ask don't think that. Well, I assume, Father, you're taking the very classic term of what is conservative and liberal, because nowadays people use those terms as labels without really understanding. A lot of people, like for instance, a lot of people that claim to be liberal are also fans of restrictions of speech, which is not a liberal point of view.
All right.
So, well, I think that what you were going with was more of the classical interpretation of what is liberal and conservative.
Well, in that frame, I would say yes. I guess a classical conservative, not I consider moderate conservative fundamental right? And I'm saying conservative is not fundamentalist, right? But conservative would be, I mean, a liberal idea to the Orthodox Church is, if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, come freely and receive Holy Communion. A conservative view is, no, you also then have to be Orthodox. But that's not a fundamentalist view. Is that, or no?
A fundamental will be, you can reach fundamentalism if you reach the extremes of either side.
Of either side,
Yeah.
correct, right.
And then we have the answer. Well, Jaeger got the first part, but Trench got both, if they are correct. Saint Columba
Okay.
and the icon of Virgin Mary with the Christ child.
That's not the name.
That is not the name.
No.
That is...
It is the icon, but it has a name, and I want the name of that icon.
All right.
It's what's referred,
What it's referred to as.
So we'll give Jaeger and Trench a chance to race to the computer to see who gets the second part.
All right. Okay. Well, while they're doing that, I lost my... Oh, Jack Sage Phoenix. I noticed you did a 10 and 11-year memorial for your departed parishioners this last Sunday. How long do you continue doing memorials for someone after they're gone?
All right. Again, totally man-made rules. Totally man-made rules. Okay. The ones that we try to keep. The ones that we try to keep is we try to keep the memorial at the 3 days after death, which is normally the funeral. Okay. Then we have the 9-day. Then we have the 40-day, the 1 year, and the 3 year. Those are traditionally within Orthodoxy the ones that are celebrated, whether it's Russian, Romanian, Greek Orthodox. Again, 3 days after death, 9 days, 40 days, 1 year, 3 year. Okay. Now here in this parish, it is very popular to do a 6-month memorial. Okay, I did not grow up with a 6-month memorial, but that is very popular here. Also, what is popular here is a 10-year memorial. We just did one, it was 25-year memorial. So outside of those, it is absolutely up to you to do whatever it is that you would like. All right, an 11-year memorial is not common. Okay, but there's nothing that prevents me from being able to do that. All right. But I would say those are the traditional ones that are practiced by all the Orthodox churches, and then different elements of Orthodoxy will then practice different things. And then within that, different people will then do different things.
Is there a cutoff? I mean, you just mentioned
25 years. I just did one for 25 years. There is nothing wrong with having a name remembered, because, again, God likes to hear that name being repeated as often as possible. And even the monks will tell you that they continue to repeat all of those names, okay, because when God hears that name, we are asking for God's mercy on that departed soul. So you can never say the name enough.
So could I theoretically do a memorial for my great-great-grandfather, a 100-year memorial?
If you want to, yes, you could. What most people will do is they will provide me a list of those names at the prothesis, and I will memorialize those names there. Okay, but not with an actual memorial service. But nothing stops you from doing that. Absolutely not.
So Trench is back with the second part, and he kind of answers it 3 times over. But I think the one that you're probably, we'll see. Panagia Hadegethria. That might be a very specific name for that. The Virgin Hadegethria. I'm probably mispronouncing all the way at the bottom.
It's probably
I'm thinking if it's what I think it is. Hierondisa. Idigitria.
It's an iconic depiction
right.
of Theotokos holding the child.
No, that's another icon. The Panagia, the one that he's got there is the all-holy leader or guide. Idigitria is a guide.
I think that icon is in the video, is it not? That
It is.
Yes, so they have to. We might have to give a hint because there's a lot of icons of the Theotokos in Christ, but this particular one, you might have to give a little more of a clue.
Okay, so the
Because when I look up that word, the icon, the specific icon that we're talking about,
is not that one.
no, shows up.
Oh, it does?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, but that's not the name of it. So, a little bit. Hey, you want a mug? You gotta work for it. But what I want you to focus on is it is named after what is happening in the icon between the Virgin Mary and the Christ child.
Yes, it's
That's a hint.
Specific action.
The specific action that is happening there. Okay.
all right. Now I have to
Poor
go.
Trench is watching this video over and over, going, "What is he talking about?"
Well,
I'm rooting for you, mate. I'm rooting for you.
And of all the people, I thought for sure he is going to get this one.
He's gonna get it.
He's going to.
well, we know. All right. Well, while Trench is busily looking that up, I'm going to read one from Aaron 88205. His question is tied to one that he asked before regarding fasting.
Okay.
We know fasting is not necessary for salvation, yet in the writings of many saints, priests, and monks have made it seem like it is. Why is that?
Well, because what they want you to understand is what fasting can accomplish. What the saint wants you to understand is that fasting has a purpose. If they don't stress the value of it, then it can be seen as something that is not necessary. But it is a vital step to a prayerful life, okay, because of the fact that it puts you in a state of readiness to be able to listen to hear God's voice, okay? And so in that, it is much more important from the saints' perspective that they overstate they overstate the need for fasting rather than understate it, right? Now, the saints have said that it is not essential for salvation, as you have mentioned, but they want you to understand that it is an integral component that goes together with prayer. Even Jesus Christ himself said to the apostles, this kind of demonic action can only be conquered through prayer and fasting. All right, so they want you to see that very, very strong tie between the two of them, and that language then needs to be very, very strong.
It's interesting that in the Protestant churches, so many of them say fasting is just it's a works, and it should why do you do that when they have all the what would Jesus do sayings,
Yes.
and Jesus does that, yet they throw that out.
And as we talked about last week, we had big discussions. We talked about last week, Jesus Christ himself gives us the example on many occasions where he went and fasted. Okay, so if it's
What would Jesus do?
WWJD.
then fasting has got to be right at the top, or close to the top.
Yeah.
I also follow you, WWMD. What would MacGyver do?
Okay.
Always works.
Right. Any answers yet from our?
Let's take a look.
This is
because now the Retchy report came in and actually answered that. So what do we do now?
What's that?
One person answered half of it, and the other person answered the other half.
No, we haven't got the second answer yet.
Another person answered the second half.
Oh, so what is
what is their answer?
The Theotokos sweet kissing icon.
There it is. Bing, 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 bing.
So now what do we do?
So wait a minute now. We've got...
We have Trench and Jaeger answered the first half, and now we have the Retchy report that answered the second half. So I make a proposal to make this simple.
Okay.
All right. Since the Retchy report answered the icon question, they get the mug. All right. But since Jaeger and Trench answered Jaeger answered the first part, St. Columba first, they should get maybe the shortbread.
Oh, okay.
And Trench, I have a feeling you're gonna get another shot.
You know what? Okay, wait a minute now. Oh, so here. Okay. All right.
All right, so you'll have to clear that up again afterwards so we can send the right thing to the right
Yes.
person.
So Jaeger, if you're still listening, you're gonna get the shortbread, and the Retri Report will get the mug.
Okay. So let's put those back here.
All right. Wow, I did not expect that to be.
All right, but we got the right answer. That's what I was
Yes,
looking for.
the sweet kiss. Or in Greek.
Glykiphili.
And once again, email us at agocny@gmail to be in contact. We do have a super chat from Tommy Williams,
Oh, okay.
who says, "Can a person be saved without knowing Jesus through no fault of their own, such as an Amazon tribesman before the Europeans arrived?"
So the answer from the Orthodox is anything is possible for God. Okay? But we can't make that judgment. So the Orthodox Church would say, yes, that's absolutely possible, but that is God's will.
All right. Our next one is from T Bear Atlanta, I believe. Hi. Oh, yeah. Hi from Atlanta. How does the Orthodox Church stand on being a best man at a friend's wedding at a Protestant church or justice of the peace?
Well, the justice of the peace is a secular event, so the church doesn't have any problem with that. If you want to stand to be a witness at a justice of the peace, we have no issue with that. The problem with being the cubaro or what we would call the sponsor at a different Christian expression is that you are aligning yourself with beliefs that are not necessarily Orthodox. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I don't believe that the Protestant Church views that as a sponsor or anything as the Orthodox Church does. I think it's symbolic. He's my best friend. I want him to be in my wedding. It doesn't really go anything past that.
Yeah, and that's right. And that I'm still thinking from an Orthodox perspective of him doing so.
Right.
No. Then you're right. In that sense, you're right. It would not be problematic. He's my best friend. He just happens to be Orthodox. I want him to stand there. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I didn't think about it I wasn't thinking
because
about it.
the cubaro and the best man in an Orthodox wedding, you can even argue, does more than the bride and groom.
Yeah, well, they do. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
He's exchanging the rings. He's holding the cord.
The groom, all he has to do is drink and just walk around the table. Come on, that's easy.
Yeah, and they're spiritually related. Where in the Protestant Church, it just is not the same.
Yeah. No, so that would not be problematic.
Can we expand this for a second? Now, what about a secular wedding? A lot of people nowadays are having weddings. They're not necessarily Christian. They're just, you're standing here together and witness in front of your friends and family, whatever. Do you have any restrictions on that?
And where it can become problematic is if that person is being asked to do something from a religious standpoint. Like if they're asked to say, let's say they are a pagan, right? Okay.
Well, no, I'm talking about like non-religious wedding, like just a secular wedding where
when they're reading poems or.
Well, they might read like. I mean, I've been to a few of them. They might read like an inspirational poem, but not religious.
But that's what I'm saying is as long as they are not involving themselves in a religious obligation, then the church has no problem. So in what you're talking about, in a kind of just a non-religious secular ceremony, the church doesn't really have any problem with that, because you're not doing or saying anything that is contrary to your religion. But if they're asking you to participate in a religious wedding, then that can be problematic.
So praying to the tree god would be wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just checking.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's probably out there
Yeah.
somewhere. All right. Okay.
Big statue of Baal in the background.
Well, we have congratulations for 100 from Sotiris Dragos.
Hey, Sam, thank you again, and thanks Sam for the video. I really appreciate that. You know that you'll be back on the show again. But Sam was also himself recently in Greece, so we're going to give him a little break from.
Yes.
Yeah. And also thank you to John. I don't know, Father had my head spinning earlier, and for some reason Dan got stuck in my head. But I know who you are.
So, speaking of Greece, Sam visited a nunnery in Greece, and one nun spoke about the importance of the godparent being present and raising the child spiritually, just as the biological parent raises physically.
Sure, absolutely. Which is why I tend to resist. I'm not always successful, but I tend to resist a situation where the godparent flies in from Greece or flies in from California or flies in from Hawaii, because then that godparent is not active in the child's life, because they may see them at Christmas, but there's really no activity. What I want, and what the church wants, who cares what I want? What the church wants is they want that godparent to be present and active in that child's life. So I really ask that, okay, if they're going to do that, all right, at least have somebody here that could also be active. So you could have kind of a godparent here, a friend of yours, somebody that you really get along with, that you tend to hang out with, and then the other person could be a godparent too, and then they can, when they come in, that'd be fine.
What happens if a godparent abdicates the responsibility? Does the family take? Is there something that the family can do, or appoint a new one?
And I've had that situation a couple of times where the person has come to me and said, I no longer want to be the godparent because I don't agree with what's happening in that particular family. So I don't want to be a godparent. It's kind of like. It is like priesthood. You can't take it away, all right? I can't say, well, I can say I don't want to be a priest anymore, but you are a priest forever. Okay, same thing. You are a godparent forever, okay? So you are supposed to remain in there, because you got to be there for the tough times too. You can't, it's not something you can say, well, you know what, I don't like the parents anymore, so I quit. I mean, you have to be there for the child. Maybe you don't like the parents, but you still have to be there for the child.
Well, let's say the godparent went somewhere and came back and said, I am now a pagan.
Well, okay. All right. So in that sense, yes, the family would have to search out then for a new godparent. Correct.
So once again, if the godparent decides not to follow through with their responsibilities, everything you say is great, but they can still say, I give up. Is there a route the family can take? There's
really no in Orthodoxy, again, there's no formulaic process by which you get a new godparent. We don't have anything like that. You are a godparent, okay? So all we'd have to do is just take the situation on each individual circumstance. And certainly we would try to reconcile first with the godparent and the family and see if we can reconcile that. Okay, if we can't, then we have to come up with another option, and that other option may be, that the child is old enough now that maybe the godparent is not as critical. But if the child is still young, then maybe we have to find then another suitable replacement for that spot, for that child.
We have a super chat, once again, from Tommy Williams. Thank you very much, Tommy. If a Christian is persecuted, can they deny Jesus? Such as if their life is at risk, if they say, yes, I believe in Jesus, or, in places such as North Korea or Afghanistan.
I mean, of course they can. I mean, our church is full of that history. From the very beginning, we have had people who, under the threat of torture, have we have it in the gospel. We have it certainly in early church history. The early church had to deal. This is one of the big issues they had to deal with. They had them coming back when Constantine declared Christianity to be legal. Thousands of people came back and said, we want to be Christians again. And these were people that confessed Christ and then denied Christ, started taking up idolatry, and then all of a sudden it's legal, and now they want to come back, and the church had to contend, what are we going to do with these people? And the answer was that they brought them back. Now, the penance was no communion for 10 years, all right, in most cases, all right, but the church brought them back. All the church asks you to do is to fight to the best of your ability, all right? And everybody's ability is going to be different. Some people can hold out longer. Some people don't wish to, are not ready for the martyrdom route. In fact, look at the icons, right? The icons, right? Look at the icon, right? What does the icon say? Look at her hand. Or when you see the icon and the hand is held up like this, it means, do not take my route, because I was a martyr. And the saints recognize that this is not everybody's path. All right, so we see that evident in our icons. Is
the hand saying, do not take the path, or is it just saying, reminding us? I don't think the saints are going to tell you.
Don't take them. Yeah, okay. So what they're saying is understand the dangers of my path. Maybe that's a better way. Thank you. It's a better way to say that. The dangers of my path. But there is always repentance. All right. So we always, even Saint John Chrysostom says, that come ye at the 11th hour. All right. So Jesus always seeks the repentant, the truly repentant.
You can take Peter as the example.
Yeah. Peter's another great example, right? Yeah.
He denied Christ thrice.
Thrice. And he was even told beforehand, you're going to do it.
And he wasn't under threat of death.
That's true. It wasn't under threat of death.
I think it's time for the next prize giveaway.
All right.
We should we'll save the t-shirt last. So we'll do the
tea towel?
The thistle tea towel.
The thistle tea towel.
Which I'm sure is at the top of anybody's list.
Okay. That's right. The waffle design tea towel. So there's a waffle.
Oh, those thistles. You can seriously hurt yourself falling in those. And there's a story of I won't go into it now.
Story of warfare where this stopped them, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's very pretty, but which question are we getting, or which video?
Okay. All right. I visited the Glencoe area. All right. And while I was in the Glencoe area, I stopped off at a place called the Devil's Staircase. Okay. So on the sign, it told us where this footpath, this Devil's Staircase, where it goes to. So what is the town or the place, the village that it goes to? Question number one. Okay. And then what was significant about why I was there in that area of Glencoe? So where does the footpath named the Devil's Staircase go to? And number two, what happened in this area? Significant event.
And please answer both questions in the comment.
All right. While we're waiting for that, Sam asks a second question. Why do godparents, godchildren fall away from each other? And why is it more emphasis of life together following the baptism? It seems like once the baptism is done, the obligations cease to exist for many godparents.
Boy, Sam, well, you've hit upon the what's the word? There's a specific word I'm looking for. The pain of every priest, or not the plague of every priest, but the
bane.
The bane. Thank you. The bane of every priest is exactly what you have said. I mean, they even made a joke about it. I mean, the two priests are talking, and the one priest says, he says, "Man, I'm having a terrible problem with mice. Mice are infesting now the sanctuary area and the inside of my church. I don't know what to do." And the second priest says, "Easy, baptize them, and you'll never see them again." So there's even a standing joke because of that. All right, and
well, isn't that joke more that the parents don't come to church any longer once the child is baptized? But what do you do about when there's the relationship between godparent and godchild ceases?
What's supposed to happen, and this is actually something that I should, it gives me a reminder that as we're going to have a Godparent Sunday this year. I know with COVID, we've been away from it, but we are going to have a return to the concept of a Godparent Sunday that is celebrated within the Greek Archdiocese here in America, Greek Orthodox Archdiocese here in America. And it is the godparent's responsibility that if the parents don't bring the child, then the godparent comes, and this is why they need to be local. The godparent goes over to the house and says, "Hey, Dimitraki, hey, Panayota, you know what? Hey, you're coming with me to church." "I don't want to go." No. Come on, we're going to go, and then I'm going to take you out for ice cream afterwards, and blah, 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 whatever, okay? So it's the godparent really that has to step in. This is why it has to be somebody who is known by the family, all right? This is why it becomes problematic a lot of times when they select people from their own family and they're not going to church, so nobody's going to go to church. All right, so the parents don't really go to church. The godparent, they're kind of the same ilk. They don't really go to church, and so the kid is left off on their own. Then when the kid becomes a teen, the parents come to me and say, "Father, my kid doesn't have any religion." And then they want me to answer that question. And the answer is, you never spent the time, or did your godparents spend the time taking the kid to church or involving them in the life of the church? And now you wonder why they're not coming to church. I mean, come on, take the log out of your own eye, for Pete's sake. This is the bane of priests.
Well, I don't think people understand. They think it's a title. Nuno, I get to be called that. We go to church. It's a huge thing. It's on the not the bucket list, but the checklist.
It's the checklist, yes.
The baptism. We have the luncheon afterwards. We all go out and eat, and they forget, or they've never understood from the start that this is a spiritual bond that is every bit in the church, every bit as strong, or what's the word? It's stronger than a blood.
Yes, a spiritual bond. And the other thing that I stress, on the website when I speak on godparenting, it is the Orthodox belief, it is the Orthodox doctrine that the godparent will be judged on what they did with their godchild. If they took on that responsibility, then that will affect their salvation, because they have chosen to take something on. When they stand before judgment, just like I will stand in judgment for what I failed to do with my parishioners, the godparent will stand for what they failed to do for their godparent. So they are very high risk. They are affecting their salvation.
For their godchild.
For themselves too, right? And they're responsible then, for that. So, and the priest gets caught in a difficult situation here. Now there are a number of priests who, and mostly I gotta say, mostly converts who have the strength of conviction to say, "No, I don't see you in church. I don't," and they come to be a godparent. "Well, I'm sorry, I don't see you in church. I don't see you practicing an Orthodox life. I don't really know who you are. You cannot be the godparent." And they will just, and then they'll say, "Well, you know what, Father, I'm never coming to this church again. My family's been coming here for 50 years. I'm never coming to this church again." Okay, but they have the strength of conviction to hold true to what the Orthodox faith is. And unfortunately, we as Greeks, a lot of times we don't take that hard stand, and we're like, okay, we understand, and we try to get them involved as we can. Okay, which is the right path? The right path to stand firm and say this is what it means to be a godparent, or to let that person be a godparent but to continue to work for them. What's the right path? So Sam, I'm sorry I went deep on this, but this is a great question.
All right, Trench is back with an answer. All right, and I can't pronounce this town, so I'm going to do my best.
Oh, wait a minute, he won already.
No.
Oh, he didn't win.
No.
Oh, okay.
He came close.
This is his comeback. This is comeback. And I can't pronounce this, so I'm going to do my best. Kin Luck Levin, which I think is correct.
Very good.
And Saint John Antithesis to Divine Ladder.
No, I said what event happened here. What I said in the video was that I'm here as the antithesis. But what the question is what is the significant event that happened in this region of Glencoe? There was something historical event that happened here.
Very famous event.
Man, Trent, I'm sorry, buddy. You're getting killed tonight, man.
No,
but you're halfway there.
Trench has a chance to
even further explain what John Climacus is and Glencoe.
Oh, right.
I have faith.
It's halfway through the video. It says there's something happened at that location.
Something happened at that location.
Think fast food. If you know the answer, that makes sense.
Oh, food. Yes, yes. Yes, I'm polling for Trench. Yes. All right.
You made these too hard, man.
Well,
hey, these are important prizes here. Come on,
All right. Well, speaking of Trench is next up in the questions. Why are some books not present in some Bibles? For example, Book of Enoch, used by Ethiopian Church but not Greek, says Son of God is Enoch, Acts 8:37 and other passages, or some of the apocryphal gospel. I heard that one passage of the apocryphal gospel of Christ said, "You revile me, but do not revile the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit of the universe is Hellas, who begets men, and I am the Son of Man." So, why are some books not present in some Bibles?
Okay, so the there is a set of criteria that was used by the early church and continues to be used by the church to this day, that establishes what is or what makes up or what makes up the canonical scripture. Now, again, remember when Dr. Constantina was here, she mentioned something that is very, very interesting that most people don't know, including Orthodox, that although the Protestants and the Catholics have closed the canon of Scripture, the Orthodox have not. We have not closed the canon of Scripture, meaning that we could include another book of Scripture. But there is a significant three-step criteria that establishes what can be in Scripture. Number one, it has to be a first witness, meaning that we know who wrote it. Okay, so just like Luke, we have evidence of Luke historically, who he was. We can authenticate that Luke did write that gospel. Same thing with John. Now, I know that there's certain passages, there's some redactions in there. We understand all that, but that the primary or the substantive author can be verified. All right. Number two, it can be a second-party witness. That's Mark. So Mark was the scribe of Peter, and we have historical evidence of that, and he is a first-person witness to the person who knew Christ. So first-person witness to Christ. That's for New Testament, okay? All right? And then the third, which I would say probably is the most important, is that it has to be essential for salvation. And this is how many of the books were excluded from the canon of the church, because they couldn't verify a first or second witness, authorship, but more importantly, the information that was contained in there was not conducive or did not add to the salvific words that were in the synoptic Gospels and the Gospel of John. So in the case of the Book of Enoch, if I'm correct here, I thought that the only the oldest text that we have for Enoch is in the Ethiopian language. So we don't really have an authentication for what witness now. So how that text came about. So in that sense, that Book of Enoch was not included. The rest of the apocryphals, like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the authorship is questionable because a lot of that comes from those later, not Syrian texts, which is the one that I'm thinking of. There was later text that could not be authenticated through authorship. So this is the criteria that we use today: first person to Christ, a second person to witnesses to that person, and essential for salvation.
All right, so it happened again. Next time, only one question, buddy. So John Barone and Trench both answered McDonald Massacre within seconds of each other. But since Trench is the only one who answered both parts of the question,
he has to win.
He's going to get the tea towel.
All right. Trench, you got something. All right. Very good.
John Barone, you have another chance, though, for the last question for the t-shirt.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So for the Highland Cow t-shirt, size large, and it's pretty unisex, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
One question.
One question.
One question.
Okay. In the video, Presbyteros Castle, okay, what are the two gifts that she was receiving from her subjects?
Oh.
And there's no religious connotation to this answer.
That is correct. Yes, there is.
Yes. All right. Next up, Maria King. Is Teresa of Lisieux is the Saint Teresa of Lisieux in the Orthodox Church?
Well, since Diane gave us that entire set of, all I need now is what the saint did, the name of the saint, the day of the saint, and then I can look it up, and if it's in there, then she is an Orthodox saint.
I will look it up.
Okay.
Saint Teresa here, or maybe
I'll look it up, and you guys move on.
Okay, and all right. Next question. Oh, well, it's really a congratulations from Orthodox Potato. Congrats on the 100th episode. I appreciate all the time you have put in helping me and all others.
He's the same one who won the first prize, right?
Well, we don't know if it's a he or a she.
Oh,
we don't know. And then Frank Cost, happy 100th.
Frank, you. Frank, thank you.
And, let's see me go down. There's some comments. I hope Marissa does well. She's doing fine. Busy studying, or not studying, but working at that. I'm trying to find the next question. Oh, here we go. Jack, you mentioned last week that there was a strong Orthodox presence where you were visiting. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Okay, so there was the Romanian monastery that is current there, that is established.
I forgot the name of it. It's not on the sign. It's not out there. It's all Celtic saints, I think, something like that.
The church itself. Okay.
The monastery. The name of the monastery.
Oh, all Celtic saints. Okay. Obviously, Iona is the earliest. The earliest evidence of an Orthodox presence. I mean, it's an early church presence, obviously, because it's the 300s of what would be the Orthodox faith there. Okay, so we have St. Columba. the churches that we visited, many of the churches that we visited, like St. Columba, the Church of St. Columba,
St. Ninian was
St.
another
Ninian,
one.
St. Ol-
Finland, not Finland. Finan. Finan or Finan.
St. Finan. There was the church there. All of them had the Celtic cross. I mean, they are not labeled as Orthodox churches, but all of the but in the graveyard itself, the Celtic crosses that were inside the church, and then the hymnals that were there had some of those Orthodox prayers. They weren't labeled as Orthodox prayers as such, but throughout our travels on the Isle of Mull, we were constantly seeing then the Celtic cross. When we went into the church, we were seeing stained glass windows that were commemorating now these saints who are recognized in the Orthodox Church.
And icons. We had seen Orthodox icons in the St. Columba Monastery.
In the monastery itself, right? That they had, and I think when you went inside and you filmed, in fact, I pointed out a couple of the icons that you actually took film footage on, and so many of those icons still remain there.
So I have an answer about Saint Teresa. So she is very much a Catholic saint. Many consider her the patron saint of Russia, but the Russian Orthodox Church does not view her as a canon.
Oh, it's a canonized saint.
Although there is a Greek Orthodox icon of her that I found, but from what I can see, she's not recognized by the Orthodoxy.
Does it have the feast day?
No, I could not find
the feast. Because if you're on the feast day, then we can look it up in the.
We'll look it up for next week.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Trench asks, if a man and woman have a disagreement and cannot 100% agree on issues and have to make a choice, who gets the final say to progress?
Always the man. No, I'm just kidding.
We're about to see that in action.
as I get clobbered. So wait a minute now. Who has the?
If a man and a woman, I'm thinking that husband and wife have a disagreement and can't 100% agree on issues, and they have to make a choice of who gets the final say. Like we watched that, oh my gosh, a movie where, it came out in the 60s, and the husband says to the wife, hey, who's running this marriage? And she says, well, you, of course.
Well, the Orthodox answer is easy, and again, it's always back to Genesis, and we have God saying in chapter 1, I believe, it is not good. It is not good for man to be alone, and He created woman, and if you read it correctly in the Hebrew, it is as one who stands in opposition to Him. So it is not a helpmate. That is not the correct translation. It is not a helper, like a slave. It is one who stands in opposition, meaning that they stand equally to one another. So it is not the man above the woman, and it's not the woman above the man. They stand together. So the Orthodox answer is that they have to resolve it with together through their own dialogue. And there is not the Orthodox idea of that the man is the final say. That is a Greek tradition, right? That is a patriarchal tradition that the man makes the decision, but it is not a it is not a Orthodox position. In Orthodoxy, and we hear it many, many times in the marriage ceremony, about that the two of them come together as one. Okay, now yes, we read,
You don't have it memorized? You said it how many times?
I've said it how many times?
Just here in Rochester.
Yeah, 29 times I've already said this here, just in Rochester alone. The reading is from the Epistle of the Holy Apostle of Paul to the Ephesians. All right. Be subject to one another out of reverence for Christ. Be subject to one another. And then it says, wives, be subject to your husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. Okay, so then they read that, they hear that, and they say, see, the church is conservative because we believe that only the man now is going to be is at the head. And in fact, I did have a young couple, and they asked me, and they said, Father, could you read that in Greek so that nobody can hear that? And I said, no, I'm not going to say that because you have to understand what's happening there. All right, and so it is not. We are not saying now that the husband now is the head and rules over her, but be subject to one another out of reverence for Christ. All right, so it shows that there is an equality there that St. Paul is talking about.
So real quick, because everybody, we found a date for Teresa. No, I recognize that she was born in France, but according to her bio, she's also considered. Some Catholics consider her the patron saint of Russia. So, which I want to read into it a little bit more. But we have a date, October 1st, the Little Flower.
Oh. Now, again, the Catholic and Orthodox feast days don't always align in every case, but I'm just curious.
She was also canonized May 17th, 1925, by Pope Pius XI, asking for the reason that I am about to convert, and this is my patron saint. So that's an interesting question in and of itself. If you have a specific patron saint and you convert to Orthodoxy and that saint doesn't exist in Orthodoxy, what do you do?
Well, okay. I mean, all it says is that it needs to be the name of a saint. Okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be the name of a cat. It's supposed to be somebody that you want to emulate. All right? So in that sense, that's fine. If you want to take that name and it's a recognized saint, then we don't have a problem with that. So at least on October 1st, I don't see it, but that's okay. We can.
I don't believe that it is an Orthodox saint.
Okay.
It just is a Roman Catholic, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm seeing that the Russians say no, but
Yeah. And usually at that late of a date,
They're not.
then
right.
it's not.
are there any more recent saints that the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church agree on? Or is that basically after that schism, it's different?
I can't think of any that both have
Well, I'm
canonized.
trying to think of Saint Gregory of Palamas, Saint Simeon the New Martyr. Those were all in the 11 and 1200s.
But more, we're talking like say 20th century.
Yeah, in the 20th century. I don't think there would be.
Man, I can't.
Yeah,
think
because
of
I
any.
don't know if the Catholics recognize Saint Nectarios.
Well, I'll have to look that up.
So that would be an interesting question.
This is actually a couple of years out, but it shows how far we kind of plan along. We actually have a whole, there will be one Sunday school year that focuses on the saints. So there'll be 1 year where we're going to be having a lot of different types of videos focusing on many different types of saints. So that's something to look forward to. And you'll probably find a lot of surprises in that research.
Do we have any answers yet for?
I'll look in a moment.
All right. Well, we have from Laura Costa. Hello, Father and Terry.
Hey, Laura, say hi to John, please.
Both seem well, so glad you've continued to go to Scotland. My question is, what does the Church believe about signs from deceased...
See, that's a sign.
That's a,
What does the Church believe about signs from deceased loved ones? Electronics. I'm not sure what that... I'm not sure about that last part, but what does the Church believe about signs from deceased loved ones? I don't know. I opened the door and a robin flew by, and that was my mother's favorite.
Oh, I thought
bird.
she was also talking about like you saw your dad, right? Remember?
Well, she just says signs, and I'm assuming that's what she means.
There's a spectrum, all right? So let's assume both ends of the spectrum.
All right. Normally speaking, we're very cautious about the physical signs, like the bird landing, seeing a bat, things like that. We try to shy away from that because that can have pagan connotations. All right. So in that sense, I would probably say that we don't lay much credence to that. However, in terms of signs that we see maybe in dreams or that we will see a vision, there are many, many documented cases of that. So for us as Orthodox, if God is going to speak to us or allow one of the saints or our loved ones to speak to us, he can allow that. But we feel that he's going to allow that and not then a certain sign to occur. Having said that, and I don't call this a sign, but I personally, and I've seen it, I've heard it from others too, there have been situations where I have been ready to embark on a course that was not necessarily in God's best interest, that would have been glorifying God. And as I was about to embark on that task, all right, something intervened. A friend called me. Somebody stopped by the house. Something happened in the yard, and it took me away from where I was thinking. So remember, St. John Chrysostom, the thought is not the sin. The dwelling is the beginning of sin, and the action is the sin. So many times in my life, I have seen where I have been in that dwelling zone of starting down that path of sin, and then something has happened. But it's always been something of a human nature, a phone call, somebody stops by the house, I see somebody, and that has prevented me. That I absolutely 100% believe that God has used his creation to intervene and to keep me on the right path, and it's my job to listen to that, all right? So that's kind of a sign, if I could say that. But normally speaking, like I said, animal signs and things like that, we don't really lay any credence to. No, that is, if you talk to John, for sure, he'll tell you that that is absolutely Greek culture, that we have all kinds of signs that we attribute to chickens, bats, snakes, things like that. If we see something happen, Greeks get all up in arms about stuff like that. So I'm sure John can regale you with many, many stories about that.
Aaron asks, could Roman Catholic saints be venerated by the Orthodox? Why or why not?
Yeah, I mean, the church has no problem. I mean, if somebody brought in an icon of Saint Augustine, okay, we wouldn't throw the icon out and say, "Oh, it's Saint Augustine. We can't have him in our church." Okay, again, he wouldn't probably be part of. He wouldn't be part of a liturgical celebration, but if somebody brought me an icon of St. Augustine or of Ambrose, and said, "Father, would you put this icon behind the altar for 40 days, for the blessing?" I would say, "Of course I will." All right. So we as Orthodox recognize those early church fathers and theologians, regardless of whether they were Orthodox or Catholic. All right. But there are some that we would just not include in a liturgical celebration through great vespers, divine liturgy, matins, things like that.
All right. Strange Places asks, should we still confess the thoughts in confession that are a temptation, even if we have not moved forward or even considered doing the foul action that was briefly brought to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I see absolutely no problem with that. Because normally what happens with that in confession is they will ask for help. They will say this, they're not confessing the thought, but what they're saying is, Father, I keep having these thoughts and I don't know what to do, and then I can provide some guidance for that. So it's not a confession in the sense of, oh, Father, I've committed a sin, but it's like I keep having these thoughts. What should I do? So it's more about the advice. And remember, for us, confession is the confessing of sins, but it's also equally, and at least in my experience, more often the case that questions are being asked in a confidential manner.
All right. And Trench would like a clarification on the final say. If it is not the man or woman, when there is a stalemate, does an outside source like a priest get involved? Must they get involved? Like, it could be a big thing that's impacting the marriage. I can't think of a particular thing, but they both, maybe it's something involving children.
Yeah.
And they have two separate, and they just cannot come to an agreement. What do they do then?
Well, and absolutely. In fact, in the marriage counseling, the premarital counseling that I do, we have 4 sessions that we do, and that last session talks about, okay, who can we use as a resource to help us with our problems? And the priest is one of those. There's a marriage therapist, of course, but the priest is kind of like that first stop. That's why it's so important for me to get to know the couple that's being married, so that they can become comfortable enough with me to say, Father, we're having this issue. And I've had that. The couple has come to me, not like marriage therapy, like they're falling apart, but they just come to me with a question. I think it's this. She thinks it's this. Father, what is it? And then I'll give the Orthodox perspective, and then looking at that, they'll make a decision. Absolutely, then, the priest should be one of those first stops.
We have a question here that was submitted by Kay Kriaki. Welcome back from Darwin, Australia.
Darwin, Australia.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
I am confused and concerned about the commandment of the Sabbath, that it is the holy day, a rule from God, yet we observe holy day as Sunday. And I understand that this has changed due to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Is this not a man-made rule?
Well, okay. I mean, Jesus did not say, okay, you're going to worship on Sunday. Okay. So in that sense, to some extent, yes, it is a man-made rule. If you look in Acts, okay, Acts speaks about now that the followers of the way, that's what originally, before they were called Christians, they were called the followers of the way. And that you read that in Acts. And it talks about that they would gather together for the agape meal, and that would be on the first day of the week, and that was Sunday. So it became tradition to separate themselves from the celebration of the Sabbath, because they were no longer bound by the Jewish law. They were now bound by Jesus Christ. So in that sense, yes, it is a man-made rule that the tradition evolved, that we, to distinguish ourselves from the Jewish faith, now celebrate the agape meal and do Christ's commandments, take, eat, this is right. And we did that on that first day of the week, and you can read that transition in Acts.
First ever texted in question. Which do you prefer, Glasgow or Edinburgh?
Well, that's kind of that. Well, to some extent, that's kind of like saying, do you prefer air or water? I mean, if you want to, well, you guys went to Glasgow, right? Okay.
Yeah, I've been to both.
All right. So if you want history and you want the old, what is the ancient Scotland? Okay. Then Edinburgh is the place to go. I mean, it's Edinburgh Castle, it's the Royal Mile, Princes Street. I mean, you have those very, very old representations of who the city was. But then, if you want to see what the city of Scotland looks like, you got to go to Glasgow. I mean, not that Edinburgh doesn't have a city. I mean, it does. Okay, but the more metropolitan area of Scotland is Glasgow. Okay, it has much newer buildings. It's not as old. I mean, it is old. It's old. It's there, right? Okay, but it just depends kind of on what you want. I think what's happened for us is that, downtown Edinburgh has become too kitsch for us now. I mean,
there's a lot of tourists.
Tourists
shops.
and
but there's a lot of beautiful. It is. I think it was voted as one of the most beautiful cities of maybe Great Britain, maybe Europe. I mean, it is a beautiful city, and
there's a castle on top of an extinct volcano. I mean, how can you go wrong with Edinburgh?
You're right. But if you're, and again, not to say that Edinburgh doesn't have nightlife, of course, but
they have the Hogmanay, which is a big thing in
oh yeah, that's
Edinburgh,
right. Mm-hmm.
And the Fringe, huge.
They have the Fringe, but Glasgow's got the Hogmanay too, right? For that New Year celebration, they've got a big one too. Yeah. So again, I can't say, well, we like one over the other. It's just depending upon what we're going to do. We have started to move away from city life, right? So I think that probably in either one, if we had to be within we'd be in the vicinity of them, but we'd still stay more remote. Right.
Yeah, I can answer this way. If I were to go back and explore one of the two more thoroughly, I would definitely choose Edinburgh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Glasgow is so much more contemporary. It really distinguishes Edinburgh.
Yes.
As something vastly, unique.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And there's just, I mean, you can't. The history is there. I mean, there is history in Glasgow, but the history is really there.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. But I do have to say, Edinburgh Castle gets all the press, and the actual castle that is the capital of the city is Stirling.
It's Stirling Castle. Yeah. That's right. Yeah,
and your castle too.
Well, of course, that goes without saying. Sure.
Speaking of, Jaeger answered the question correctly. It was indeed shortbread and whiskey.
All right.
But since Jaeger, you already answered the previous one. I'm going to give you a choice whether you prefer the shortbread or the T-shirt, and then if we get an answer, we'll ask one more for whichever one is left over.
All right. Okay. Speaking of shortbread, would you like a shortbread?
Oh, can I eat and talk with the...
All right. Strange Places asks, is it okay to do a 40-day liturgy memorial for people that were not Orthodox? It says 40 liturgy memorial.
A 40-day memorial at the end, right?
Yeah.
Well, we can't do the memorial service, but many, many times I have done the Thyrsion service. I can do that. So at the end of liturgy, let's say, Terry, like I do that for your dad, okay? That let's say, which one is the next one coming up? It's 5 year.
5? No, 9.
Oh, 9. So like for 10 year.
No,
right.
I'm sorry, 8. It's in October. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's 8 years.
So at the 10-year mark, okay, then I would do at the end of liturgy, I would do a Thyrsion memorial service for her dad. Okay, on Veterans Day, Memorial Day. On Memorial Day, I do a Thyrsion service at the end of liturgy for all of the veterans. What I cannot do for Terry's father is I cannot have Koliva there. So I can't do the full memorial service, but I can do the Thyrsion service. And both of those can be done at the end of liturgy.
Plus, he was cremated, so no Koliva for that either.
Yeah, no Koliva, right, if you're cremated. That's
Even if he was Orthodox.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I've lost my place. Always Being Belle. Welcome back. My 4-year-old knows that both her grandma and Yaya have passed. She asked me last night if they live with God. What do I tell my child in line with the church teachings? We are Greek Orthodox.
There it is.
Uh-oh. More show and tell.
You know, there was a great book on that. Shoot, and I'll have to find it out. The Archdiocese put out a very nice.
Nobody can hear you from that far, Father.
The Archdiocese put out a very nice pamphlet about that, about having that discussion about death. So I got to find that pamphlet. Very, very well done. But certainly, the child is 4, right? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying what you said, which is now God has called them. See, there are some people that He needs right away, and there are some people that He has work for them to do on earth. And we don't know which is which. So sometimes it's God's will that He needs them right away, and then sometimes there's others that are left here because there's work that they need to do. Now, I'm speaking to a 4-year-old here. The answer is that we live in a fallen and a diseased and corrupt world that is overcome by death. So it is not God that takes them away. It is the fallen state that we live that death now still rules. Jesus Christ has conquered eternal death, but death as mortals still rules.
That's what you would... I shouldn't say it like that, but I mean, as a 4-year-old, is that the answer that you would...
No. I'm saying the first answer.
Oh.
The first answer to the 4-year-old. The next answer is, what is the answer? Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got confused. And
No.
Like,
All right.
No, I had
my thesis.
Yes, I had the 4-year-old answer and then the older answer.
okay. All right. Well, you had me scared. Okay. I did
Traumatizing the child now.
I did skip, and I'm going back. I keep skipping. Okay, so I skipped from viewer Orthodox. So Orthodox says, Happy 100th. Could you please comment on 1 Corinthians 11, verses 7 through 9? And that would be, this is the verse,
Yeah.
A man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but woman is the glory of man. For man did not come from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for woman, but woman for man.
Okay. And again, we got to be very careful with St. Paul, okay? Because, St. Paul says, that I order that no woman shall teach a man. Okay, now some of the Baptists still keep that. Okay, the Orthodox do not teach that. We have women like Presbytera Frederica Matthew Green, who certainly teaches men. Presbytera Jeannie Constantinu, who teaches men. Not everything that St. Paul said is being followed today. And that is not a denial of our Orthodox faith, but it is understanding that what he said was said in the context of not only his time, but specifically to the people that he was talking to. And specifically in Thessaloniki and Corinth, he was speaking to recently converted Greek pagans. Okay, and there was a lot of debauchery that was happening in Corinth and Thessaloniki. Okay, and some of that was done by the men, and some of that was being done by the women. And he was speaking to the women becoming much more prideful, and the way that they wore their hair, and they were doing things now to lure men more than acting in a Christian manner. So we have to remember, again, the time that St. Paul was in and the specific audience that he was talking to. And so for the Corinthians, he had an issue he had to deal with. For the Hebrews, he had another issue to deal with. For the Romans, he had another issue to deal with. So we can't just pull things directly out of St. Paul's teachings and say, okay, this is what applies today.
Didn't he also say that men should not have long hair? I mean, that would...
it is not disgraceful, but he says it is not proper for men to have long hair.
Yeah. So I mean,
and
a
every
lot
depiction
of Greeks would have a problem with that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Oh, I wonder if that's why Sam cut his hair. No, I'm just kidding.
or Samson.
And you told me this. What is every depiction of Jesus Christ?
Long hair.
Long hair, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, real quick, I want to point out Santa Man 1 wanted to point out a situation with the men versus women debate that's been happening. So he says, so the priest might help decide whether or not the couple buys the RV.
Am I missing something?
He's joking.
Oh,
if
okay.
they're arguing about
Oh.
whether to get an RV, he wants it, she doesn't. The priest can decide.
The priest can. Oh, okay. Duh, all right.
I think as long as there's a bottle of whiskey involved. you
Right.
know.
Okay. But now he talks about the modern and all that, and this is important to say, especially in today's culture. And again, many might feel that this is a conservative position of Orthodoxy, but Orthodoxy makes a very clear and concise distinction between male and female. They make a strong distinction between what is a masculine role and what is a feminine role. And we are not apologetic about that. Now, one of the things that is not a masculine role is that I make all the decisions in the house. Okay. But there are fatherly concepts that the Orthodox Church needs to, or feels are very important to be passed on to the child. There are motherly instincts that are equally important that needs to be passed on to the child. And so we feel, and we are not apologetic about the fact that God has created man and woman as separate beings who have distinct and unique roles in of themselves.
All right. And I think it's interesting in the when you're reading in the wedding ceremony where it says, husbands, love your wives, women, respect your husbands. It doesn't say love, that both,
Oh, yeah.
He says, men, love your wives, women, respect the husbands.
And the love part is the harder part because it says, as Christ loved the church, which is sacrificial. So it's it's a much more imposed requirement on the man than it is on the woman.
All right. 1137 Jam asks, is it okay to pray for forgiveness for the sins of the deceased daily, or must those prayers be on specific dates? There's a book for everything.
There's a book for everything. Why is my book not here? Hold up. Wait. Don't go anywhere.
In the meantime, Santa Man 1 says, when I was stationed in the UK, I loved London, Edinburgh, and Glasgow.
Okay, see?
But the villages were much more intriguing for me.
Yes.
Which I think is...
yeah, I agree. London's too big for me. I'm not a city person, I guess. I mean, it's a vast city.
But the cities are great, but once you get to Glencoe, once you see those vistas, that's much more breathtaking. That's much more worth it.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, so I am reading right out of the memorial prayer that I say, at least in this parish, almost every Sunday, right? Almost every Sunday. Again, we pray for the repose of the soul of the departed servant and for the forgiveness of his every transgression. Lord God, establish his soul where the just repose. We ask for the remission of his sins from Christ our immortal King and God.
And since the liturgy is done every day, it's a daily asking.
Well, I'm saying the memorial prayer.
Oh, it's a memorial. I'm saying liturgy.
This is a memorial prayer, okay? And lastly, we ask, O Lord, that you grant rest to your departed servant from pain, sorrow, and suffering. And we ask that every sin committed by him in word, thought, or deed, you as our good and loving God forgive. So this tells you right away, this is what we do in the church
But
at
they're
every
asking,
memorial service.
can they pray daily? Every day can they pray? That's I'm assuming they're praying for one of their
Yes.
family members. Can they do that every day?
And if it is an Orthodox prayer, it can be prayed every single day.
All right. Okay.
100%.
And then, well, you talked about be careful what St. Paul said. Well, Bertie states Jesus called the apostles to leave their families behind and follow him. St. Paul states it's better to not be married and remain single to follow God.
Right. And there's another context we've got to understand. St. Paul, like the other apostles, felt that Jesus Christ's return was imminent. So he was saying there's no reason to get married. Jesus Christ is going to be back soon. So devote yourselves to Christ. Don't worry about getting married. Worry about now Jesus Christ returning. He thought he believed that his return was imminent, as did the other apostles.
I mean, that would be the end of Christianity right there.
What's that?
If every single Christian didn't get married, I mean, it wouldn't last very long.
And it would, yeah, exactly. Right.
Trench, oh, here we go. I was looking down. Trench says, Metropolitan Philaret of New York said, Orthodox families must make effort to form circles of acquaintances and friends from among people of their own faith and culture, united around their parish church and the grace-filled life of the church.
Sure.
So should we not make an effort to make friends or acquaintances with non-Orthodox?
Okay, so read the statement again.
From Metropolitan Philaret. Orthodox families must make effort to form circles of acquaintances and friends from among people of their own faith and culture, united around their parish church and the grace-filled life of the church.
Okay. Now, again, remember, the Orthodox Church, when we read Scripture, we also look at what Scripture doesn't say. All right? Did he say that you could not have Orthodox friends? No. He is making an appeal to say it is important. He recognizes that here in America, we are going to make friends outside of our Orthodox community. That is a stated fact. Okay, we live in America. We don't live in Greece, and we don't live in Russia or Romania. We live in a pluralistic society in America. That is taken for granted. What he is saying is that given this, you must make the effort to be part of your community of like believers. I mean, how many times do I stress the fact that coffee hour is important, that we need to be a community here amongst one another, because this is where we talk about Orthodox things. And the bishop recognizes that many times when you're out in your job, you don't talk about Orthodox things. You don't talk about religious things. So where is your place to do that? Here in the church. So he's not saying don't have them, but what he's saying is, I know that you have them. Now make an effort to make sure that you also have a space for your religion, for Orthodoxy.
All right, and that brings us close to the end of the show.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
I'm getting all
2
excited.
hours.
We knocked
Flew
out
by.
2 hours.
Wait a minute, who won the shirt?
Jaeger won the shirt. I'm still waiting to hear back for which of the 2 prizes he wants. And next week we'll give away the one that he opts not to get.
Oh, because I had this. This was the ultimate prize.
What?
The Greek English lexicon.
All right,
so this is
Save that
we'll
for-
save that
save
for
that for
week.
next time. Okay, that was one of my. So the other thing that is there another question? Just really quick. Okay,
No.
so that's it. We're running out of questions.
Well, that's,
It's
I mean,
2 hours, man.
Oh, okay. So
Our audience is smart enough not to text us too many questions in the last 20 minutes.
So we had a huge discussion on the on just war in the last episode. There are 2 books that discuss this from an Orthodox perspective very, very well. The one, unfortunately, I left at home. This is the second one, an absolutely excellent book. So next week, I know we've run out of time here, but next week, I think you've got the other one. It's by Webster, Alexander Webster. It's the pacifist option, but this one is also a great book on the Orthodox position. A little cerebral, and a bit polemic in the beginning. All right, but a good book. And so next week I want to just talk about that and talk through that a little bit more. I know that we're kind of running out of time here, but we're going to definitely talk about that tomorrow, next week.
Well, because you asked, Trench does have a final question. Do you find being a priest easy?
Well, okay. I mean, I'm stalling here for a reason. Okay.
It depends. No.
Yeah, it depends. I've got to say, honestly, I find it easier because I've already had almost 30 years on the outside, about 26 years on the outside. Okay, so I've learned
on the outside,
not being a priest.
26 years. You okay?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
in the professional work.
In the professional work,
Oh,
starting at
okay.
23.
I thought you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Man, you look terrible for your age.
I was
if you're
gonna
40.
say.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
What? No, I'm 80. No, I look good for 80, man. But I've already gone through, being married. Okay. I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean,
Sure, what you're saying there.
meaning that.
Well, why do you say that in past tense?
No, I mean, we were married. We were married quite a few years.
Over 20 years before. You
Over
became a
20
priest.
years. Okay, so we know who each other was. We weren't fighting that. Okay, I knew how to deal with difficult people. The Army taught me leadership skills. At General Motors, I learned how to manage large projects. So I had this whole skill set before I became a priest. All I'm doing now is I'm applying those skill sets, during the week. Okay, and on Sunday I get the joy of celebrating a liturgy. I'm not watching it. I'm actually part of it. So from my standpoint, being a priest isn't hard. And that's not to say that I don't have, problems during the week or, there's a lot of stuff going on. But that 25, 27 years has taught me how to prioritize, how to delegate, how to give things. I mean, I give most of the stuff to the secretary. I mean, I know how to delegate. So I know how to make my life easier. I know that it's important that I have a day off, that Terry and I can spend time together. So in that sense, it's not hard for me personally to be a priest because I enjoy being with people, and I get to do that now every single day. Okay, there's days that are tougher than others, but generally speaking, no. I personally don't find it that difficult.
Well, how do you deal with, being a priest? It's a profession that puts you head on to the worst moments in some people's lives. Like a doctor or a nurse. You have to deal with death on an almost daily basis, helping grieving family, etc., funerals. How do you deal with that? Because that can't be easy for many people.
I mean, okay, and there's the military again. I spent 1 year or 2 years as a death notification officer. It was my responsibility as an officer, and every officer typically has to go through this duty. It was my duty that when somebody died, I was the one that went over to the house and said, Mr. and Mrs., on behalf of the United States Army, I'm here to inform you on the death of your son, your daughter, that. Okay, that was the duty that I had for 2 years. That introduced me to the fact that death is part of life. Okay, I'm not saying that it desensitized me. I'm not saying that I don't feel, that I don't cry with families now when I see them, but it gave me the understanding that I don't fear death. I mean, I understand that it is a part of life. I'm not saying I'm ready to die now. Okay, we got a little time, we got stuff to do. All right, but it doesn't hold that fear factor for me. So in that sense, it was the Army that helped prepare me for that.
And this show probably isn't very easy for you.
No, I love doing this. This is what and when I had the consulting job, right? This is what, when I was, with my consulting business, that's what I did every single day is I got in front of companies and people and spoke. And, the courses that I taught were taught over a period of 3 to 4 days. So it's me speaking 8 hours a day for 3 days. I mean, come on, a 2-hour show is a walk in the park, for Pete's sake. Give me a break.
Well, no, but what I mean is that this specific talent is not. It's something that it's very difficult for people. Being able to get in front of a camera, being in a live situation, and having to think on the spot. With this is an opinion show. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, right,
opinions,
yeah. But it's right. It's not. Yeah, I mean, you have to be kind of you have to be on your game. So with that, I got just a kind of interesting story here, again for preparatory, because I love this. This is Thursday nights, I think. But I remember when I started the consulting business, I was going into a lot of manufacturing plants, and there was one particular tool and die shop, and the executive called me in because he was having some problems and he wanted me to teach this particular class. Okay. And he knew that the workforce was resistant to this new technique, And so I met the executive on the day, we talked about what I was going to say, this and that. And he says, okay, it's all you. And I walked into the classroom, and there was probably about 20 or 30 guys. And they're all like in their 50s, 60s, a couple in the 70s. And they're all sitting there like this, And so I got my books out. I got the chart up. I was ready to start. And the guy in front stood up. And he says, I just want to let you know that I speak on... I'm saying it's a New York accent now. But I just want to let you know on behalf of everybody in this room. And he turns around and everybody nods. And he goes, I want you to know that we're not going to be listening to a word that you're saying. We don't care what you have to say to us. And you can talk as long as you want, but we don't even want to be here. So with that, do whatever you want. Now, I'm staring down a 16-hour class. So you got to figure out on the spot, what are you going to do? So these are the types of situations where you can think a little bit quicker. But I remember thinking that and going, oh boy, I'm going to have to make a change here, and what am I going to do? And it worked out for the best, that I took a different approach and I got them around to my side of, I should say my side, but the correct side of thinking, and it ended up being pretty good. But working, especially in companies, working with people that are tough, and forcing you to think on your feet has helped me in this too. So God has really prepared me for ministry.
And you got a lot of comments from people saying that they look forward to Thursday night as well. And Trench mentioning that who knows, in 1,000 years they might still be asking you questions in the afterlife. So you're cursed now.
And you'll see Trench in the afterlife.
That's right. I'll see Trench, and we can have this huge dialogue between us, right?
All right. Once again, everybody that won prizes, please email us at agocny@gmail.com. The email address is in the description. If we don't hear in the next 2 weeks, we'll recycle the prizes. Mm-hmm. And once again, this weekend we have our normal Sunday live stream, but we also have the Vespers for the Dormition or the Assumption, and then once again on Monday morning at 10 a.m. we will also have a live stream of the Dormition. The Dormition Divine Liturgy. Yes. Right. Okay. Absolutely. And look forward to more Scotland videos coming. We have a few more, right? We have a lot more longer form Scotland videos coming out for the Tartan Priest. Essentially, one of those videos is going to be coming out every month or so. So pretty much we're going to have almost half a year of Scotland videos coming out, as well as some other Tartan Priest videos as well. We're really enjoying them. I hope you all are enjoying them. Let us know and help keep that playlist growing, because it's refreshing, I think. Now, we would be remiss if we did not say
a thank you, because the reason that we are here for 100 episodes is because all of you have been really good about staying with us, asking us really good questions, not taking fluff for an answer. Not that I ever try to do fluff, but you guys have stayed with us. You've asked us really good questions, and we really, really enjoy having the community, the online community that this has grown into.
We couldn't do it without you guys. And we want to, we're looking forward. Some people have mentioned, good luck on the next 100. I'm looking forward to our 1000th episode plaque. Scott, I have my eye on you. But once again, please share our videos, keep this community growing, and I like the fact that the chat is a very welcoming place for new faces. So I wanna see that continue in a positive, awesome direction.
Sounds good.
All right. Once again, thank you guys.
And again, Presbytera, thank you very much. Mr. Director, Mr. Producer, thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll kick off the show in case anybody missed it. We'll end the show with a replay of the Scotland slideshow. So good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.
Good night.